right, just thought we'd start with some music. You all came here for a wine podcast, not a music podcast, but we did mourn the loss of Eddie Van Halen this past week, unfortunately. Um, so I thought I would start with a little tribute to Eddie Van Halen there. That was his song 316, written for his son Wolfgang way back in the year 1990. So condolences to the family and acquaintances of Eddie. He was a great influence to many people, and myself included. On to the wine. So I have a few updates to give. Last week when I gave this live, I had mentioned that my licensing had hit a little bit of a snag. I'm happy to announce that that snag is no longer in place. I did have another conversation with the state. It is indeed moving forward, so it only leads me to believe that perhaps I was speaking in Italian when I called them, and they were unable to understand me, and so perhaps speaking in English the second time around was the trick. Second update, we placed a purchase order again this week, and it is with our producer that we're excited to work with in Sardinia from the Pala family there, Adaria. We spoke about Adaria a few weeks back, and I am happy to have their wines coming to the state of Maryland, so welcome Adaria to Maryland. Third topic for this evening is we are going to do a tasting, and I'll introduce you to a producer from Puglia. Puglia is in the south of Italy, and if we take our map of Italy here, if we look at our map, you see right there at the heel in the south, the Italian peninsula is shaped like a boot, and we have this heel here, which is the Puglia region. Puglia is rather underrated when it comes to wine. There are actually some very good wines that are made in Puglia, and it has a great climate for winemaking. So there are just certain areas that are really good for growing grapes for wine. Puglia is one of them. It's in a very sunny location in Italy. It has moderating sea breezes, which actually can cool the vineyards at night, and the effect of that is that you get these really nice complex fruit flavors that can be ripe and baked at the same time. They really make interesting wines there in Puglia, and they're also very bargain worthy as well. So usually you can find these wines in the $10, $15, $20 a bottle price point pretty regularly. So brings us to the producer. The producer goes by the name of Hiso Telaray. They are a family winery that is in that heel sort of shape of the boot, which is a region that is actually called Salento. It's a special region. It has its own IGT in Italy. And we have three wines here that we're going to taste. The first is a rosé. This is the Hiso Telaray Rosé, Albarelli della Santa. Albarelli is actually the training shape of the vine. They train it in these tree shapes, and it's actually pretty prevalent in Puglia and known to be one of the keys to their grape growing. Beautiful color here that you can see. It's a salmon color rosé, similar to what you would see from Provence, maybe a little bit of a deeper pink. Some really firm acidity there, some fresh, ripe fruit, strawberries, light raspberry, and it's really complemented by this crisp minerality from the soil there that's beautiful, a little bit of a light rose aroma there. This is a rosé of Negro Amaro. Negro Amaro is one of my favorite grapes. It's actually Italian. In Italian, it means dark bitter. And when we get to the red version of the Negro Amaro, we'll talk a little bit more about that. Quick thing on Hiso Telaray. As I mentioned, they're a family winery. but they operate on, similar to Cento Passi, who I spoke about a few weeks ago or a month ago. They operate on confiscated mafia land, and they sell their product through a cooperative called Libera Terra, which is a company that gives farm-based businesses a way to do business without involving the mafia, which is a really interesting story about the winery. However, they're really proud, and rightfully so, of the quality of their wines, and I think that's similar to Cento Passi. That's really the story. The second wine that we'll taste is this wine called Anto, also from the same winery. Anto is a Primitivo-based wine. Primitivo is genetically the same as Zinfandel. It has some similar characters. It can be vinified in a variety of styles, some very intense and some less intense style. This particular Primitivo has like a dried rose bouquet on it, and you get some of those ripe and baked fruits that you get from this part that are essentially driven. They're really climate driven from this part of Italy. Again, those ripe baked red fruit flavors, red cherry, red raspberry, a little bit of black fruit, touch of baking spices. There's a little bit of oak aging on this, and you get that really nice sort of dried rose in the aroma, which really works together with all of those things to create a great deal of complexity. So Primitivo is really a nice wine. It can be very different from the Zinfandel that we drink here in the U.S. Primitivo or Zinfandel can get very ripe and intense. This is just such a well-balanced Primitivo. Really excited to have this wine. The third is Negro Amaro. Negro Amaro. This is the Filari di Sant'Antoni, another wine by Hiso Telaray. This is 100% Negro Amaro. I discovered Negro Amaro about 7 years ago. I took a flyer on a bottle that I came across in a store as I was exploring Italian wine and really getting to know them. And I opened this bottle. I was by myself, and eventually some friends would join, and I was just really intrigued by this bottle. And then the friends came by, and they never had anything like it before either, and it was just a really nice time and a nice discovery. And I'm excited to have this Negro Amaro as part of our lineup here. So Negro Amaro, these are fairly on the intense side with respect to red wines. They're not intense in terms of, they've got probably medium tannin, medium plus tannin, same on the acidity, fairly full body wine. This one has a darker aroma than the Primitivo did, a little bit more dark fruit, again, some fresh, ripe, but also baked characters that you get in the fruit character that really make these interesting and adds to the complexity of the wine. Definitely a nice finish on this. There's a little bit more intensity with the Negro Amaro relative to the Primitivo. You get a little bit more of kind of like an earth soil character in it, which is really nice. And actually you see that, or you don't see it, you taste it and smell it very often in Italian wines, and particularly the wines of the South. It's really kind of a nice additive character to that. A little bit of a rose aroma to this one as well. I wouldn't call it overly tannic, but this can stand up to some pretty substantial dishes. It is a really interesting grape, and I urge you to seek out Negro Amaro, and hopefully soon we'll be looking to bring these wines also to the state of Maryland. So that is all for our tasting this evening. Again, I appreciate everybody attending, following, taking an interest in what we're doing here with Wide Roots. We are getting started, and with the news on the licensing, a couple purchase orders placed, a few pallets of wine about to hit the ocean and make their way here to Maryland, and we're excited to bring them to the market here. So thank you. Stay with us for updates, and if you have questions about wine in general or about our wines, please direct message me, reach out to me. We will see you around on social and during our next weekly live stream. Take care, everyone. Bevi Italiano. Ciao, arrivederci.